Without an inside, you'd go wild.
Right.
You have to have some limiting context to be in, and not just the space generally.
Right.
So Chokhmah is the thing that provides both of these things.
Right.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
That's right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the other question is, at the very end, we're speaking about tshuva. You gave the example of the finger, the cut, and, what is it that heals the cut?
Right.
So, I can't remember, but I think the way this whole Hemshech begins is with this question of what's higher, Torah or tshuva, right?
Yeah.
Going all the way back. But here we're saying this ultimate level that Torah goes up to.
There's never a question that which is higher Torah or tshuva, because it's obvious.
Say it again. I'm sorry. What did you say?
There's never a question which is higher. I mean, we discussed, but it's never a question because it's obvious. Because tshuva can correct any errors any transgression in Torah.
But here we're saying that the last thing we're saying is Torah goes all the way up into Shashui HaMelech Be'atzmusai. Is that correct?
Right, but that's right. That's correct. Now it's Torah. Ultimately, Torah, the way it's in Yisgala, the way it comes down to us, is below tshuva. But in its root, it is at that level to the point where it can actually
Hello?
Yes, I have to respond to this
Okay.
thing. Just 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Torah is able to bring tshuva down to us. It brings Torah, it brings the Gufei Torah, the Levushim, and the Gufei Torah, and the Yerishmos Torah, and it brings also its source also down to us in a much in a completely different way, but it brings it down.
So
everything comes to us through Torah, even tshuva.
Everything including tshuva.
Even tshuva.
However, at the same time, Torah, a level of Shashui HaMelech Be'atzmusai.
That's the root of Torah. This is where Torah is rooted.
It's still not, even at that level. You were also saying today, this is the point of, this is in a way the point of Tzura Atzmis. It's not Etzim. It can never be Etzim.
Right.
But we're going all the way up to Shashui HaMelech. Even in that respect, Torah is Tzura Atzmis.
Torah, right. Tzura Atzmis means that you are able to represent the Etzem. The Etzem is represented in Tzura.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We are just below the middle of the page, Lamed Beis. The line begins with Raya Muchachas. We already went into this. Raya Muchachas. This is where we're saying that Torah reaches all the way to Shashuim Ho'atzmim, which is way above Chochmah. And the Raya Muchachas for this is that we see that Torah brings down the Inyan HaTshuva, and Tshuva is way above the Inyan from Chochmah. The Mal Mechinaz HaChochmah. Since we are going at this space and went so deeply into the Inyonim here, I want to discuss a little bit the term that we're saying that the Oinag Ho'atzmi is called Nishmoso. We have actually used that term before. We said the Oinag is Chayus. It's like interchangeable with Chayus. But here we have it right in the Maimer in terms of the way he quotes it from the Zohar, that there is Nishmoso and Nishmoso le Nishmos. And that is referring to the Oineg Hanelem in Chochmah, and then there is the Oineg Ho'atzmi. What is the... We discussed it a little bit. We actually touched upon this to point out how Tshuva represents the union of Neshama, because we see that just like Neshama, the Nefesh, the Chayus that's in a person, that can heal any injury, and it heals it to the point where it can restore a complete severance, a complete injury to a limb, and it can restore it. This is the Inyan Neshama, and the same thing in Tshuva. What is the neshama, the chayus element? We all sense it. As long as a person's alive, he can always recoup, get well, and I said restore even a severed limb. The Shoma element in the Gashmius, in the Guf, there is the physical structure of the Guf. As a matter of fact, when we study the physical structure of the Guf, when the naturalists or the scientists study the physical structure of the Guf, there is not an imperative element. This is how it has to be. The heart has to be here. The liver has to be here. The stomach has to be here. There is not an imperative element. This is how the structure happens to be. But once the heart is here, therefore you have to have arteries coming here, you have to have veins coming here, and so forth.
What does imperative element mean?
Imperative means it must be. There is an overall concept that is expressed by virtue, not only by the fact that there is a heart and a head and a brain, but in the actual position relative to each other.
There is no imperative element. Right?
In the body, in the physical body, there is not.
Meaning the heart could be somewhere else?
The heart can be somebody else, the brain can be somebody else. The brain, on a physical level, the brain supplies the heart with essentially the inspiration, the oxygen, so that the heart would pump. If there is an injury in the brain, the heart stops pumping. The brain instructs the heart that it should pump. So the brain supplies the heart, so to speak, with this impetus to pump. The fact that the brain is above and the heart is below is insignificant in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
This is just one example. The structure, however, the human structure, is absolutely an imperative structure. And this is how it must be. As we point out many times, I'll be too falling asleep. Should I open the air conditioner? I don't want. Let me get the air conditioner.
Well, I just need a coffee.
Yeah, David, I'll make it right.
Hmm?
1, 2.
Yeah. Wait. 1.5.
All right. So as we pointed out before, when we talk about the Gufei Torah, this is the way Chochmah disseminates the Oimek. Gufei Torah, this is how you should act. The do's and don'ts in Torah. This is already after it becomes Chochmah. It becomes a Metzias, a Dover. And there are all kinds of different do's and don'ts. The same thing in a person, in a human being. He pointed out that there is the spirit of man. And the spirit of man, we'll discuss it a little bit in a moment. That spirit knows no bounds. You can be here and look at things miles away and relate to them. But that's on the spirit level. Once it goes into the Chochmah, and he actually perceives what it is he wants, then he realizes that in order to do that, he has to actually get there. To get there, he has to have feet, and he has to walk a distance. So there too, we have the way the human being is structured. Feet are below everything else. Then there is the way the animals are structured, and they are uneven keel. Their head and the back are all on the same level. Neshama, the nefesh, this is the spiritual the spiritual essence of every creature, and by human being we'll understand it best. This is the spiritual essence of the human being. We spoke, just to demonstrate this point for a moment, we spoke many times about sight. And then there is, in the dark, that you feel the way around and you touch things and so forth. We said an interesting observation, that an animal also has sight. But when an animal looks at things, what does the animal relate to in what it sees? It translates it into a tangible. What is this thing? Is it edible? Is it dangerous? It sees the tangible aspect. The human being, because of his spirit, has a completely different take on things. When he feels things in the dark, and he feels them through their tangible means, what does he actually project? What does he actually relate to? To the visible. What does it look like? Not what it feels like. This perception, this approach, this way of looking at things, there is not a functional element in this. This comes directly from the nefesh. It's not due to experience or functionality. This is the spirit of man. Human being, as we spoke many times, relates to the spirit of things, not to the tangible and to the physicality. As demonstrated in the simplest way, you go into a chasana hall, and there are all kinds of different things going on. There are tables and chairs, and plates and food and all kinds of different things. What do you notice? What do you relate to as a human being? To the intangible, to the spirit, to the chasana, to the simcha, to the joy of what's going on. This is what you notice. Everything else is secondary. It's only demonstrating, it's only dictating the goof of it. It's not the real thing. This is a neshama. And this neshama, just like in the example of the chasana, this neshama that you know that there is a simcha, that encompasses everything else going on. This justifies why this table is over here and this table is over here and this plate is over here and this plate is over here and the chosin tal over here. It justifies everything, the whole setting. It couldn't be any other way. And the whole chokhmah that is involved in setting up is to reflect the neshama of the chasana on the practical level. That's the whole chokhmah.
In this mashal, the chokhmah is the setting up of the whole.
The chokhmah in this mashal throughout the whole time.
Yeah.
Chokhmah is that which puts this neshama element in perspective. In a dova.
Yeah. Now I didn't get this whole thing with the body. It could not. It can be. There's no element. It's imperative.
The body is so now I went to. So from this we understand the way it is in the body. Mitzad the functional aspect of the body, the feet could be on top and the head could be in the bottom. The animal, if to walk, the animal that walks, the human being can also walk that way. But the human being doesn't walk that way. Not because that is the way it is more efficient to walk, but that's the way a human being walks.
So on the functional level, nothing is imperative, but on an essential level, everything is as it must
And
be.
the nefesh, the shlos of that represent the essential.
The functions of the heart and the legs, that's like the group.
That's what they do.
Aspect.
Yeah, that's all the goof aspect. But the goof reflects the way it is in the neshama. In the neshama itself, there is two levels. There's neshama, the way it is in chokhmah, and then there's nishmosa, nishmosa, which is the essence itself. Which is the essence itself. I was just thinking today, you know, you think all the time and things come clear. There is a whole fully developed science that understands the world from the Gufa perspective. And they say everything works perfectly by this give and take, by this cause and effect. And it is entirely self-contained within the world. And there is not a neshama element. There is not an imperative. This is the way it works. This is the way it works. There's nothing compelling that it should be this way or that way. And the truth is that is a correct view of the world up until the time that God created man, human being. Because I speak all the time, the world was created in 6 days. The first 5.5 days, that's exactly what the world was. It was completely a self-contained element. There is not a godly representation. Everything works according to its natural structure. Then came Adam Rishon, came man. And man brings a new spirit, a new perspective. And man asks not, how does it work? Man asks, what is this all about? What does that mean? What is it all about? Now, where is the neshama of this? Where is the essential reality? That is where you have chokhmah, shmosa, and shmosa l'nishmosa. What compelled Adam Rishon to look, what is this all about? Did anybody come up with a quick answer? Because the first thing that Adam, who is a human being, perceives, knows, what is the first thing he knows when he wakes, when he opens his eyes, or before he opens them, when he has his consciousness? What is the first moment of consciousness in a human being? It's the first being. It's the first being. So where do I see the first being in all of this mess? I have to see unity in this whole mess, because everything comes from one thing, from one source. Like we said. That's a nishmosa l'nishmosa. There has to be. And he insisted, what is this all about? And that changed the whole thing. So if animals accuse us of being troublemakers, we are.
One second, so it's a natural thing to believe in God? Like,
to answer your questions of this, to believe in God, that you're talking about on the intellectual level, on the conscious level, the way you think when you are in the body. And there is a whole conflict. But the body works like this. What do I need to believe in God for? The body works without God, so to speak. But that is when you think like an animal. What does an animal think about my body? For my body needs, I don't need God. I can eat and sleep and do my thing. I don't. If God created me, it's fine, but I don't see the ongoing relationship, the need for it. The animal doesn't need it, why should I need it? But then I realized that I'm not all body. I'm strong, I'm nefesh. Like we said all the time. What do we say all the time? An animal lives, a human being lives. Animal has a body, human being has a body. What is the difference? The difference is that an animal is a living body, primarily his body, but is a living body. A human being is primarily a life in a body. It's completely different. And no matter how much, how you with all the effort that you put in, to eliminate the life in the body, but to emphasize the living body, you won't succeed. Because that's what the human being is life in the body. This is where you have all kinds of revolutions and young people rebel and break windows. This is
Why is that? Because he doesn't have it yet. In other words, saying there must be a first being, there is a first being, before he actually perceives anything. That's why it's the higher level.
Just one second, let me.
Why did you call that?
Oh.
How do you differentiate between the neshama and the neshama?
So this is what he said just now. Remember we explained the Rambam? Even this is up in Nigla, but we can go deeper, but even in Rambam it's like this. The first thing, before you go into Chochmah, before you be, later is already a stage. Before that, you initially have that awareness that there is a first being. This first being is before later. Later is in order to bring down into Chochmah.
So what's the first thing in the Rambam? What's the first thing? We're in the Rambam.
Motor Rishon. This Motor Rishon, later, the Rambam says you have to be a later shesh. That later is already a mitzvah. But you have to be mispointed in this Motor Rishon. But Motor Rishon itself, this is something which is not even a mitzvah. This is what you say is natural. This is inherent in the human conscious. It's inherent in the concept. When a person says, I am, what does am mean? I'm part of a bigger, of that which exists. I am is part of the word to be. To be means that there is being. There is a general existence. If there is not a general existence, it can be. Let's leave that alone. If you never thought about this, it requires a whole discussion. The point is, nishmosa l'nishmosa. There would not be nishmosa if there is not nishmosa l'nishmosa. Nishmosa is the pshat, that which unifies everything. Nishmosa l'nishmosa is that which is. Why does it unify everything? Because there is an imperative source to begin with. Otherwise there would be no unification. And this is what we said, this is called the Atzmus. I think that we have to call a limit to this, okay? At least in the current situation. Okay. Okay, let's go back to the words inside. Raya Mochachas,
Where are we?
the clear Raya Mochachas.
Where are we?
We are just below the middle of the page, Lamed Beis. Mochachas, that clear, proof. Mochachas means that is a clear definitive raya. Where is the raya that the Torah is Yashuim Ho'atzim Yim Mamush, is in Etzem itself? Sha'arei ba'Torah ne'emar mitzvah tshuva, because in Torah there is the mitzvah of tshuva. V'arei ha'tshuva hi l'may v'mayla b'chinas ha'chochma. But tshuva is way above the bechina of chochma. Shikosu. Okay, let's write it. Tshuva is way above the bechina of chochma. Using our muscle this morning, I hope we can pursue this. Baruch, I'm going back to the point that you started with. Using our muscle this morning. Our muscle this morning was this. He said that Chochmah, this is what gives an overall perspective. Demarcation, and overall, what is this? What is this about? And from that you can draw individual and specific functions. So our motion was that you have a house, and then you have the house is built in a certain area. This area pre-existed the house. When you build a house in this area, the area itself hasn't changed at all. On the contrary, it's the very same that was there before. And this is why you're able to tolerate the walls around you, because you don't feel that you're separated from the general reality. If you feel that separate from the general reality, you couldn't tolerate it. Except now you are relating to the general reality via these demarcation walls. And that, on the contrary, that helps you to relate to the general reality. It's an interesting thing. And this is not optical illusion. This is part of the development of intellect. You go into a room and it's hard for you to estimate the size of the room. It seems to be it's a pretty small room. You start bringing furniture into it, all of a sudden it becomes bigger. Because once you can relate to it, you don't have just a general view of it and relate to it, then you see you see its use on the human level much more than before. Before it's a general space. Now this you have actual usage and you can relate to it better. The demarcated area allows you to relate to the space better than it's an open space. But then, even after it's demarcated, as we said, it's still definitely part of the general space. And now let's take it in real practical terms. You buy a house. You buy a house in Crown Heights. You buy a house on 42nd Street in Manhattan. The same house. In Crown Heights it's pretty expensive. But in 42nd Street it's astronomical. It's nowhere near the same. You can't even compare. Why? Because the essential space is in a different area. The essential, the overall area. The outside is more significant.
How can that be? Is it Crown Heights?
Crown Heights, exactly right. That means money is not everything.
We see that space has a different.
Sorry?
Pushing what you just said a little further. You
Yeah.
see that the space in Manhattan is of a different nature.
No. This is only a muscle to point out that we realize that we are in the general environment. We are not just in the home. We pay for the same home, much more money in a different environment. But you're in the same home. Then take another point. This fact that this house, the space that the house demarcates, is really part of the general space, is extremely important. Why? Because the house can fall down, but the space will never be eliminated. The house falls down, you go and rebuild a new house on the same space. When you buy a piece of real estate, you don't buy the house, you buy a piece of real estate. That's what it's called, real estate. When developers buy real estate, they don't even buy the houses. They buy the house, they buy the real estate to break the houses down and build something else. This is called the essential reality. This is what he's saying. In Torah, there is the labush, and there is the halachas, and the gufi. Then there is the neshama. And there is nishmos or nishmos. There is an ultimate reality. There is no end. Even to the extent that you have tshuva, and you can tshuva on anything, and tshuva can cure any ills. Relate it back to the source of the atzmus, and it becomes okay. Okay, let's go. inside. Ukmeisha kosu, as it says in the pasuk, ki hamitzvah hazois asher onoichi mitzavcha. This mitzvah hazois, this pasuk, ki hamitzvah hazois, refers to the mitzvah of tshuva. Because prior to that it says, v'shavta ad Hashem Elokecha, you will do tshuva. So the mitzvah of tshuva is described in the Torah as asher onoichi mitzavcha. The mitzvah that onoichi mitzavcha. What is the name for onoichi mitzavcha? Pirush. Bechinas onoichi mishi onoichi. This onoichi refers to onoichi mishi onoichi. This is the atzmus itself. The hainu bechinas pnimi is hakeser mamosh kenoida. That refers to pnimi is hakeser. This is not the manifestations of keser. This is the atzmus hakeser. Onoichi mishi onoichi. Kenoida. Ukmoi kein. So this keser, this is how it refers to atzmus at the world level, batzilus. K'moi kein b'sheira shorisha. The same is when you go all the way to sheira shorisha, to the original source of the entire existence. Arei ze b'bchinas pnimius v'atzmus ein soif mamos. This tshuva reaches and touches in the pnimis v'atzmos ein soif mamash, which means that there is absolutely no end and no limit to this, to the effect of tshuva. This is represented, this is referred to when we say in davening, mimamakim krosichu. What is mimamakim? Mimamakim is a plural form. Mimamakim from depths, I called it. The depth we're talking about is not deeper, but the ultimate depth. The depth that is oimek loimek, the depth for the depth. It's a nishmos or nishmos. This is the asmus that is above the aspect of hamshoch, of being drawn down. It is above hamshoch even to be nimshach in the chochma shebe'atzmus. It is something which remains as part and parcel of atzmus itself.
It's obvious the connection of tshuva to Asher Anoichi Mitzvah for you?
Onoichi, because onoichi, what onoichi is an allusion to, normally Hashem is referred to by name, Havaya, Elohim, Adni. Onoichi is a reference that is beyond name. Me, myself, whatever I am, which means it cannot be alluded to by name. Name is always has an aspect of description. This has no description.
And this is the place that tshuva brings you to.
This is the place where tshuva reaches. Right. And this is what happens in Yom Kippurim, Yom HaTshuva. That explains also why on Yom Kippur, which is the Yom of Tshuva, the day of Tshuva, also ba'achilu shtiyah. This is why Yom Kippur is forbidden to eat and drink.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yeah.
So we left the realm of Chachma at this point?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We left the realm of Chachma, and this, whatever we're talking about here that comes in the form of tshuva, is not something that is channeled through Chachma at all?
Right. Right. Torah, which is Chochmah, states that there is something higher than Chochmah. Torah can tell you about it, but Torah itself brings down is Chochmah. But it can tell you based on the source of Torah. It can tell you about truth.
So then this that the finger heals, even though that there's a severance, there's a healing, that's not coming about through the flow of chayas into the body from the neshama through chokhmah.
No, it does come. The healing has to come through chokhmah. The healing has to come through chokhmah because only chokhmah can define. Only chokhmah allows for the definition of a finger. But the fact that it can heal after severance means that even though it was severed, so now it's broken and it's in two separate pieces, and there's no way to put it back together. You go back to the source of the whole thing, where there is no such thing as severance, and it can direct and command that it should heal.
So that command is coming from higher than the chokhmah, but once the process starts, then it goes back into the chokhmah.
Then it commences chokhmah. Let us. I know you asked the question. I hope everybody helps people with me. This principle that it commands the chokhmah is a very important formulation. We said all along that yes, chokhmah provides for definition. And in chokhmah itself there is also oineg. There's an element, there's oineg anela in chokhmah that gives oineg into the definitive element in the world and in life. For example, you have to, otherwise it's not going to have meaning. For example, like we said this morning, you go to work. So there is the feet, there's all kinds of different activities that take place to go to work. All of these activities have to have an element of oinig, an element of inspiration. The overall inspiration is that I'm going to work. The activities, how you get them and all that, each one has their, so to speak, their miniature amount of inspiration. But the overall inspiration is I'm going to work. There is an important principle which we already discussed previously. Even though going to work is in order to make money. Make money has a reason in order to pay rent, in order to support the family. Everything has a higher and higher course. Now, we explained that from the perspective of the nefesh, of the oineg itself, I don't care how the chayus comes, I'm able to support the family. All I'm interested in, the family should be supported. I don't care how it comes, whether it comes through work or miraculously. So the nefesh makes a difference. Do I have you with me? But Chochmah says no. I want them to be supported in this world. It should actually be slapshus in the world. It should make sense in the world, so that they will be able to orient themselves and do mitzvahs in the world. In order to do that, it has to come through this process that I have a house and a rent, and I provide for food which I go and buy, for which I need money, and I go out to work, and the work provides for it. In other words, the entire process itself, Chochmah justifies it and brings oineg in the process itself, not only in the result. Because if it were only in the result, it would be impossible for us to live in this physical world. And why is there...
What's the explanation for that last statement? If it were only for the result, it would be impossible for us to live?
Right. It would mean that we are living constantly against our will. All the things you're doing against your will, only the ultimate result is what you want. You don't really care if you sleep in a house, as long as you sleep comfortably. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? The whole thing, the entire worldly reality dissipates. What we're saying is not true. I absolutely do want to be in a house. And I do want, yes, I want a comfortable bed, I want all the amenities of a house. I want to have a beautiful house, and it should have wallpaper on the wall, not just bare bricks. This is all part of what I want, of the chayas, part of what Chochmah defines. So there is oineg in the Chochmah element. Why? Because that is the ultimate accomplishment, ultimate fulfillment of what a human being is. To be in the world and to accomplish his function in the world. Like we said many times, that this boy who knew the whole Torah by birth was Megach Monas on him. Because he never labored. In modern terms, he didn't know anything. And that's a tragic thing. To be a human being is really, in the world, is really very, very, very significant. So this is the way the oineg comes down into the Chochmah. Ultimately, at the highest peak and the highest level, that highest level, as you asked, Baruch also comes to the Chochmah, because Chochmah gives a definition. But there, the oineg is not defined by Chochmah. It bypasses the Chochmah. There, the oineg is the way it will be Liosed Lovin. That all the way from the source itself comes the directive that there should be life in the physical world. So it is not the oineg that is limited by the Chochmah. It's only directly from the nefesh.
What happens there with the mushal of the shul and the walls and the outside?
The difference is this. The difference is this.
I'm sorry.
The difference is this. Ultimately, the nefesh itself has a shlichus. The nefesh itself is also elevated by coming down into the world. It's not only the accomplishment here on the chokhmah. And where do you sense it in the meaning of truth? In the meaning of truth.
Chokhmah wants to have the
I missed the last thing you just said. What did you say? And the way you what? The way you sense this?
Where do you recognize this? There's the whole question of Chassidus. Why does an nefesh go down to the world? What entices it to go down to the world in the first place? Because actually, as you said, Yidid Tzerech Aliyah. But the Neshama itself is elevated by being in the world. It's not just a chokhmah, not just you bring down oinag at the chokhmah level. So normally, that Ayin is not manifest. In Tshuva, this is manifest.
Chokhmah's Ayin is to bring the Einig into Metzius.
Into the Metzius.
And the higher level is just the Ayin. It's just
That's the Ayin itself, exactly. And it bypasses the whole process. Normally, how do you bring Oineg? By doing Torah mitzvahs. You keep Shabbos, you put on film, you do mitzvahs. Oineg bypasses the whole thing.
So what does it look like?
Huh?
What does it look like? As you spoke about a process. This one's not going to be a process.
It comes directly from, I want to bring the Elul into the world, period.
Here we spoke about physical things. What are we going to do with these physical things?
In Tshuva,
No, loss of love. This direct.
Loshid Lovei, there will be a cognizance of the Elul in the physical things directly, not by process, not by biru.
So the steps will take place, but they will be
Directly from the source.
In other words, every step will be a connection to the
No,
highest
the step,
level.
there will be no step. The step is bypassed completely.
You described something about, let's say, how you obtain a home, how you obtain a salary, how you obtain a livelihood for your family. The family will have sustenance.
The Rambam says,
What will be
the Rambam says,
Yeah.
Loshid Lovei, there will be no pursuit for making a living whatsoever.
What will be with the house? The house, the idea that a
The
man
weather
needs a
will be
house.
perfect all the time, and there will be plenty of whatever physical needs there will be available without limit. That's what Rambam describes.
You will live in a house?
I don't know exactly the answer to that, how the house is going to be built, but I know one thing, that bread is going to grow on trees. The bread can grow on trees. The house can grow out of the ground.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
The Gemara says, "Toitze glutz kois." You need lechem mishnah. Go out to the glad yard and pick it up and make have lechem mishnah. It'll be, the point is not the miracle of it. The point is that you see things from a different perspective. It's not a question of the process. Now the process is important because everything goes through the chokhmah. It goes through the etzem, then the process is eliminated. Tshuva has that element. And here you went through and you failed. This is why it's an interesting thing. Tshuva takes not up any time. Any time. In one moment. In one moment, Tshuva can correct all errors, all inadequacies. To the extent that Gemara says, you know the halacha. Mekadesh is a yisha, I'm not shani tzadik gomer. When is Mekadesh a yisha, it gives kedusha. I'm a nas, and the Mekadesh you, with the understanding that I'm a tzadik gomer. But in fact, he's a rosh gomer. Just the day before, he was Mechal Shabbos Achmon Islam before I need treifus. And he says, I'm Kaddish you, I'm not shani tzadik gomer. So you say, hey, the whole kedusha is invalid. Gemara says, no. It's not invalid, we don't know. It's a sophic. Maybe it's invalid, maybe it's not valid. Because at that moment, if he was Maharhir Tshuva, he can become a Tzaddik Gomer in a moment. Because the Parat, Maharhir Tshuva Tanemas, Parat Tshuva goes straight to the source.